Hello and welcome to our special program on demystifying telecom SaaS security. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV. Now, until recently, many telcos have been reluctant to shift their network operations and management to software as a service models that rely on the public cloud. Data security was one major reason cited. But as cost savings, speed and business agility become competitive must-haves, telcos need to overcome this historical reluctance and seize the full benefits of SaaS. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we will be discussing telecom SaaS security in detail and examining how AWS public cloud and Nokia's telecom SaaS deal with adhering to compliance regulations in the areas of data sovereignty and resiliency. So let's now meet our guests, and I am delighted to say that we are joined today by Philip Blanchard, Senior Director of SaaS Delivery and SRE Operations, Cloud and Network Services at Nokia, and Cal Krishnan, Telecom Industry Specialist at AWS Security. Hello to both of you. Thanks so much for taking part in our program today. Now, before we get into the detail, what is telecom SaaS and how is it different from IT SaaS? And Philip, perhaps I could get your views on this first.
Absolutely. Thank you, Guy. Yeah, the telecom SaaS has significantly higher demands for resilience, performance, availability, and security than your typical IT SaaS enterprise applications would deployed into public cloud. Not that IT, applications don't also have their, strive for resilience and availability, but the telco SaaS products and network functions are running the intranet and internet access that the subscribers and carriers rely on for accessing everything that their subscribers access. So that means our deployments in SaaS have to be completely, thoroughly integrated with the resilience, performance, and security capabilities of the hyperscalers to be effective as a solution for telco SaaS.
And Philip, there's a relationship here, isn't there, between IT SaaS and telecom SaaS?
Yes, Guy, indeed there is. The IT applications run on the networks, and they have, they rely on network stability and resilience to have their consumers access the IT applications. When telco SaaS is down, all the carriers and subscribers impacted by the outage, now all those guys lost access to the IT applications that they are accessing over our telecom SaaS. So it's this one-to-many, impact that drives the need for resilience and performance at the telco SaaS layer. Very challenging.
Great, thanks Philip, that's really clear. Cal, from your perspective, how do you see telecom SaaS as being different?
Well, I would say that when operating in the public cloud, security and compliance responsibilities follow a shared responsibility model between the cloud provider and the cloud consumer. In general, we say cloud providers are responsible for maintaining the security of the cloud, while cloud consumers are responsible for the applications and the data that they put in it. In other words, security in the cloud. But the actual division of responsibilities varies between the types of services that you use, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. These are all different models of cloud consumption. And when you look from a consumer point of view, the security responsibilities associated with software as a service is the least burdensome for telco operators. Hence, really the quickest way to achieve the benefits that public cloud offers.
And Cal, as we've been saying, attitudes are changing now. So why do you feel it's the right time to consider public cloud and SaaS as an alternative deployment model?
Look, the cloudification of telecom networks is an idea that I believe whose time has come, right? For much of its existence, telecom networks and IT networks led largely parallel existences. Telecom networks were focused on voice. They were circuit switch networks, while IT networks were focused largely on data, which is web browsing and email. However, due to technological advances and societal changes, these two networks have now converged to the point where voice is yet another application that runs on a data network. Today, we use our smartphones primarily to access services on the internet, including voice. Now, in the IT world in the last 15 years, The major generational change that I've seen happen is the rise of cloud computing. It brings a lot of benefits: increased security, cost optimization, faster pace of innovation, quicker time to value, and so forth. And a lot of other industries have really taken advantage of this. Financial services industries, healthcare, and even public sector have transformed themselves. So telecom operators are looking at this and going, why can we not do the same? Why can we too not avail the benefits of the cloud? Now, until now, I would say to some degree they were hampered in the use of cloud because of legacy applications. Telecom networks have a lot of antiquated protocols like SS7, which are point to point, does not have the same kind of security, and fundamentally incompatible with the way that the cloud, the dynamicity or the dynamic nature and elasticity of the cloud, right? But in the latest version of the 3GPP specifications, which is the industry has used internet technologies like service-based architecture and service-based interfaces to implement these telecom functions. And so now the time is ripe for telecom functions which were previously only possible in on-premises physical network deployments to now be implemented in the cloud as cloud-native functions.
Great, thanks very much, Cal. So, Philip, the time now is right then for telcos to embrace public cloud for SaaS.
That's right. The SaaS providers, right? The telco SaaS providers like Nokia that produce the software and have the ability to own and operate it and deploy it and maintain it, are doing so with partnership, the tight collaboration with the hyperscalers, the public hyperscalers and their technologies that would be significantly challenging for someone to do on their own. The total cost of ownership isn't just a cliche, it's very real. If you had to invest as a consumer of the software and run it yourself, even using a public hyperscaler, how it's deployed and integrated and constantly kept current as the technical resilience options, the features and functions that are available to us in the public hyperscalers are integrated with our SaaS delivery and operations model. The threat management, the security, as Cal mentioned, the shared security model, shared operations model that we enjoy with the hyperscalers is extremely advanced because it's a SaaS service that we're selling and operating on behalf of the telco operators. To try to do that yourself or try to become as effective at it is just not cost effective. It's the right time now to take advantage of the SaaS offerings that are so tightly partnered with the public hyperscalers in our deployments.
So, Philip, there's clear reasons there, but why do telco customers care about SaaS, and what are the security challenges that the whole telecom industry is currently facing?
As everybody knows, you see the headlines constantly, the constantly evolving pools of threat and malicious intent that are all over the globe, the access to technologies that they have up to and including things like AI that gives them the ability to evolve a threat landscape at an aggressive rate, puts demands on threat prevention, privacy, security that are extreme. So staying current with not just the staff that's capable of maintaining a leading edge, security operations, capability, but also threat management compliance that continuously evolves, keeping definitions in place, scanning all of the components as more components become potential threat vector, targets, is extremely difficult. It's the economies of scale afford a SaaS provider and a public hyperscaler to invest in those capabilities because that's their livelihood. We have economy of scale working in our advantage to try to gain that capability for a specific software solution deployed on public hyperscaler by a telco. That's a daunting proposal, and having to build the confidence that they can trust and rely on the SaaS providers and the public hyperscalers is inherent to the evolution of telco SaaS. The reason it's so contemporary, it's the right time, is as Kyle mentioned, the technologies have evolved on the software side to allow telco capabilities to take advantage of more modern resilience and multi point to point, multi tiers instead of point to point protocols that really make it the right time to go ahead and bridge that gap. Rather than trying to become as or stay as good at running and operating the telco software in the cloud, take advantage of the SaaS offering and expand your business where you don't have to be as competitive an operator of the SaaS software and focus on the carrier services.
Great, thanks, Philip. And Cal, if I can ask the same question to you, because you're closely following this, what are the security challenges that the telecoms industry is facing, and how does this all fit in with the SaaS picture?
Right. So look, the public cloud has a lot of benefits that it offers, but in order to be able to take advantage of those benefits, an organizational and cultural transformation is essential. Now, if you look at the telecom culture and the IT culture, they are vastly different beasts. The IT culture is a move fast, fail fast, innovate, iterate culture, whereas the telecom culture tends to be more circumspect, with risk minimization being the central goal. And so, how do you get from that culture to an IT culture in order to take advantage of the cloud benefits is really a central question that occupies the mind of our telco customers. And just to give you an example, in the telecom world, for those of us that have worked in it, release cycles tend to be in 6-month or yearly cycles. So that's how far out in advance you have to plan the features and bug fixes and so forth. Whereas in the IT culture, things move very quickly. There might be 3 to 4 updates a day, let alone a week, right? So what telecom operators are faced with is transforming their entire organization, which means upskilling their people, adapting new tools like CI/CD pipelines, infrastructure as code, putting in new governance model, and even changing the way that finances work so that they can shift from a CapEx to an OpEx model. So I think that becomes very important, and accomplishing those and bridging those challenges is a very key security concern for auditors, for telecom operators.
And Cal, how is AWS tackling telecom security concerns with respect to infrastructure as a service and platform as a service?
Well, at AWS, we have this wonderful process of working backwards from the customers, right? We listen to our customers, understand their pain points, and then work backwards from there. And that process has resulted in a set of technical, organizational, and contractual measures that we've put in place to provide assurance and guidance to our customers that they can be secure in the cloud and how to be so. Now, let me give you just one example. One of the key concerns that a telecom operator has is employees within a cloud provider accessing their workloads. Right? And so AWS understood that concern, and about 5 or 6 years ago, we fundamentally redesigned our virtualization system. And that virtualization system is called Nitro, and it underpins pretty much all of our modern virtual machine service, which is the Elastic Cloud Compute service. So this new virtualization system, which we designed from ground up, from the silicon level, does not have any capabilities, any technical capabilities for any AWS operator to fundamentally log into a host. There's no SSH, there is no shell, there is no operating system there that they can log in and access any sort of customer content. The only thing that's available is a scoped down set of APIs that are audited, authorized, and authenticated. Okay. So that's an example of a technical system that we've developed to address an operator's concern. And recently, we brought in a third-party audit organization to look at that design and to validate that AWS's assertions are indeed correct. Our compliance program today, which is over 140 plus security standards and certifications, and third-party audits and examiner reports, pretty much attests to the security of almost every aspect of AWS's operation. And these reports are available to our customers. We truly believe that transparency and supporting our claims with evidence is key to winning customer trust. And trust is that essential prerequisite for cloud adoption.
Indeed, fascinating. Thanks very much, Cal. And Philip, what's Nokia's contribution here? What is the SaaS level layer of security that Nokia adds?
Right. Here at Nokia, we take a defense in depth strategy on security and privacy. With application security, we've got the design of the applications go through a rigorous, design, scrutiny before they're made available and released into, the SaaS, customer landscape. We have operational security with Seam SOC, and DevSecOps that are highly trained and kept, current and fresh with rigorous training and operational, tools and capabilities. We have access controls in place with role-based access controls and tools that, similar to as Cal described for AWS, assure that we don't have the ability for people to access customer data or and can assure that any operational activities are done largely through automation, and when they're not fully automated, they're maintenance windows that are done through very limited exposure paths, so that there's no chance for data leakage or data movement or any the customers can be confident in the security and sovereignty of their data. We have network threat protection, aggressive threat protection with vulnerability scans and penetration tests that we do routinely and regularly. Vulnerability management with the remediation and assessment of even the lower threat levels, just to make sure that we stay completely aligned with with the highest level of threat protection. And then the compliance, similar to, we don't have as many stamps as the hyperscalers do, because they're in almost every single technology sector in the world. But we're compliant with GSMA ISO 27001 and the ones that are common for NSA and all those that are common for SaaS and for telco.
Good to hear. Thanks very much, Philip. Now, we've received a number of questions from our viewers, some of which we've already covered, but we do have time to address a few more of them now. Firstly, how does the cloud in general, and specifically SaaS, enable data resilience? Cal, maybe you could cover the infrastructure element, and Philip, perhaps we could start with you, and perhaps you could first of all discuss this from an application perspective.
Sure. The data resilience is and sovereignty are key for telco and telco customers being confident that their data isn't moving around. As Cal mentioned, there's this relatively legacy perspective that is still pretty prevalent, that once your data is in the cloud, you always hear people talking about it. If you upload something or anything gets into the cloud, it can go anywhere and you'll never know about it. And so we've got processes and controls in place that we can share with customers that are audited routinely that show how a customer's data stays in their space, how that we can do full enterprise, global operational monitoring and observability without bringing customer data out of their environment. And the ways and tools that we do that is kind of the benefits towards a SaaS deployment, is that you get to benefit all of that capability that we instill and integrate with our SaaS services as a customer of Nokia SaaS, that allow us to have confidence that your data is, and the customer to have confidence that their data is safe, protected, encrypted, and theirs. So it's not passed around or used to replicate production systems or anything like that are not in their control, absolutely in their control at all times.
Good, thanks, Philip. And Cal, from your perspective, can you give us your views on SaaS and how it enables data resilience?
Absolutely. So listen, the design of the AWS global infrastructure is really at the heart of the cloud's resilience, right? That's where the story begins. AWS has regions around the world. Regions are clusters of data centers that are located entirely within the geographical boundaries of a nation state. Each region has a minimum of 3 availability zones, each of which is an independent failure zone. What that means is they have their own power, cooling, etc. These availability zones are located far apart, such that natural calamities like tornadoes and floods don't take out more than 1 AZ at a time. Yet they are situated closely enough that you can architect real-time replicating applications on top of it. And the regions themselves are fully isolated. They are in different fault partitions such that if there were an outage in one region, it would not infect another region. And this highly resilient infrastructure allows telecom applications to achieve their resiliency objectives. And most importantly, at price points that would be very hard to compare with on-premises deployments. Now imagine if having to maintain a primary data center and a disaster recovery site, how expensive that would be. compared to what you could do in the cloud, which is spin up your infrastructure within an hour or two and get your network going in an alternate site in case of a disaster. So that's a very important point to highlight. However, the one important thing that I will note is simply lifting, just because the AWS infrastructure is resilient does not automatically mean that the applications that you put on top of it will be resilient as well. You need to know what you're doing. You have to be able to architect for resiliency. And this is where our partnership with Nokia is so vital, because Nokia thoroughly understands how our infrastructure works. They work with us closely to understand how to leverage the power of that infrastructure to build resiliency on top of that. And so as a telecom operator, when you use a SaaS model from a reputed provider, what you're effectively doing is leaving the undifferentiated heavy lifting, as we call it, things like resilience and patching and vulnerability management, all of that to the experts, and you can focus on your business. So that's what makes this proposition such an attractive one for telcos.
Great, thanks very much, Carl. Thank you both for your answers to that question. Now, another area that's generated a number of questions is around data sovereignty. Can you explain what data sovereignty is and how it applies to telecom SaaS? And Carl, could I start with you, please?
Absolutely. Digital sovereignty is an emerging concept. In the number of conversations that we've had with telecom customers and regulators, the one thing that we quickly find out is there is no universally accepted definition. However, there are four broad themes that normally emerge in our conversations with them. When people say data sovereignty, they generally mean, number one, data residency and localization. Telco operators want control of exactly where their data is located, and they and only they want to determine if and whether it will be transferred and where to. Now, this is very important from a compliance perspective. A second aspect of digital sovereignty is what we call verifiable operator access. This is basically a telecom operator wanting to ensure that only they have control over their data. They want to determine who has access to it. They want to shield that data from not only other tenants in the cloud, but from the cloud operator themselves, and in many cases from foreign jurisdictions. Third pillar, data protection using encryption, not only when the data is at rest and in transit, but also in use, using techniques like confidential computing, memory encryption. They also want to be able to store the encryption keys in a separate trust domain that's external to the cloud. And finally, resilience. If we have learned anything from the last couple of years, it's that supply chain disruptions can happen due to global pandemics, outbreak of wars, and so forth. And it's only natural that telecom operators want the ability to maintain operational continuity in the face of all these disruptions. So that's what's important. Now, if these were the only requirements, it would be very easy to give them a private cloud and be done with it. But that's not exactly what operators want either. They want to enjoy and continue enjoying the benefits that the public cloud brings, the cost optimization, the pace of innovation, scalability, and so forth. They do not want any compromise. They want these additional controls without compromise in it. And that's really what AWS is focused on. It's providing telecom operators with these digital sovereignty controls without compromising on the benefits that public cloud brings.
Great, thank you, Carl. Very complex issue this for telcos, but with very clear solutions available. Philip, what can you add here? Can you help with some of our viewer questions here about digital sovereignty and its application to telecom SaaS?
Yes, absolutely. As Carl pointed out with the infrastructure on resilience, the same posture is required for us to be effective at data resilience and sovereignty. The technologies that AWS integrates with their platform allow for us to take advantage of like organic encryption between nodes and things like that you have to orchestrate in and articulate in the architecture of the deployed solution in SaaS to take advantage of those capabilities without having to engineer it and own that capability ourselves. So rather than having to invent ways to do the encryption and tie the encrypted contents to a key that we can prove only relates to that customer, it's only accessible by the customer's authorized roles and access within our SaaS delivery. Because that's all built into AWS and organic with KMS and the other things that are built into their PaaS layers, we don't have to invest heavily on building non-organic ways of encrypting things between nodes and hosts and Kubernetes pods and all those kind of things. AWS makes that readily available with just a service feature enablement and tying it to their a key management solution strategy that is also organic to their ecosystem. Certificates and all that are also the same way. So it's a fantastic platform for us to be able to take advantage of and not have to invest in those kinds of infrastructure hardening and encryption domains tied to customer keys that we would have to otherwise manage ourselves.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Philip. Well, before we leave, there is just time to hear some final thoughts from both of you. So, Cal, let me come over to you to wrap up our conversation first.
Well, thank you. Look, public cloud and security in the public cloud have come a long way since the early days. Philip talked about economies of scale. Hyperscalers are able to invest more in security than any enterprise can on its own. We see billions and billions of security data points. The learnings from which and the intelligence that we gather from those data points are things that we package for the benefit of all of our customers that live in the cloud. I will leave with this. I will conclude with this closing thought. The UK National Cybersecurity Centre, which is one of the premier cybersecurity agencies in the world, wrote a blog titled "Why Cloud First is Not a Security Problem." And in that, their conclusion and their advice to cloud consumers is that using the cloud securely should be your primary concern, not the underlying security of the public cloud. And when it comes to cloud consumption, the SaaS model offers the lowest security burden for telco operators and the easiest way to transition to the cloud.
Great. Thanks very much, Cal. And Philip, some final comments and thoughts from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Cal's point about the economy of scale is really a point. What that translates into is you can imagine the level of scrutiny that a public hyperscaler gets and a SaaS provider gets. So rather than just our, not only our own audits and compliance requirements, internal and external audits by third-party assessors, regulatory assessment that's done routinely, but also supporting customer audits of our infrastructure. So every customer benefits from yet another third-party scrutiny that's done on our service. AWS data centers and processes are audited constantly, aggressively, from not just their own compliance requirements. So you benefit as a customer of SaaS from having all that extra scrutiny, finding things that even one auditor or one auditing team or one auditing cycle a quarter might miss or might become, call it desensitized to, or their processes have a unknown gap in what they were checking. So by having multiple rounds and multiple external third-party scrutiny brings a level of confidence in the security profile that you just would never get as an independent operator, even if you had your own audit teams and compliance requirements. So you gain the benefit of all that organically by going with a SaaS telco SaaS solution.
Great. Thank you very much, Philip. And a great way to end, because unfortunately we have reached the end of our program. What a great discussion. Thank you so much. Philip and Cal, thanks very much for taking part. And if you would like further information on Telecom SaaS security, then please follow the links in the text below this video. For now though, from all of the team here, thank you for watching and goodbye.